It started when my cousin Noah called and said our family was planning a reunion at our grandparents' old estate. The place had been empty for over a decade, ever since Grandma passed. It was a massive Victorian home nestled deep in the hills of Vermont. You had to drive through a winding forest road just to get there. I hadn't been back since I was 16, and even then, I always felt a little uneasy around the place. Still, I said yes. I hadn't seen most of my family in years. There were 12 of us who showed up. Aunts, uncles, cousins, a few family friends. My mom couldn't make it due to work, and Dad had passed a few years back, but I figured it would be good to reconnect. When we arrived, Noah was already there with a few of the others. The front yard was a mess, overgrown with tall grass and ivy crawling up the porch columns. The inside wasn't much better. Dust coated everything. The wallpaper was peeling, and the smell, a mix of mildew and something faintly sweet, hit you as soon as you walked in. Still, the bones of the house were strong. We got to cleaning up a bit before settling in. The first night was quiet. We lit a fire in the old stone fireplace, made dinner in the semi-functional kitchen, and played cards in the living room. The electricity worked, but barely. The lights flickered now and then, and the old pipes groaned whenever someone turned on a faucet. I ended up in my grandma's old room. Nothing had changed. Her perfume bottle still sat on the dresser, dried up. A photograph of her and Grandpa was still on the nightstand. I felt weird being there, but tried not to overthink it. I unpacked, changed into pajamas, and turned in early. Around 2 a.m., I woke up. No noise, nothing obvious. Just that feeling. The one where something is watching you. I glanced around the dark room. Nothing moved, but the hallway light was on. I got up and stepped into the hall. The light at the far end, near the attic, was flickering. I figured someone had gone up there and forgot to turn it off. The attic had always been creepy. It was one of those long, low-ceiling types that ran along the top of the house. Grandpa used it for storage, and when we were kids, we used to dare each other to go up there. I never made it more than 3 steps. Now, something compelled me to go. I opened the attic door slowly. It creaked like it always had. The wooden stairs felt soft with age. I climbed them slowly, flashlight in hand. The attic was freezing. Cobwebs hung from the rafters and old trunks lined the walls. Then I saw it. A portrait. It wasn't there when I was a kid. It was huge, at least 5 feet tall, covered in a thick canvas sheet. The edges peeked out just enough to see the frame. It stood in the corner like it had been recently placed there. Something about it didn't sit right. I stepped closer, grabbed the cloth, and pulled it off. The portrait showed a man in old-fashioned clothing. Victorian, maybe. He stood tall, holding a cane, with pale skin and dark eyes that felt too real. His mouth was turned in the slightest smile. There was no nameplate, no artist signature. I didn't recognize him at all. But then I saw the background. It was this house. Same wallpaper, same fireplace, same window layout. I snapped a photo with my phone and went back downstairs. At breakfast, I asked Noah if he'd ever seen the portrait before. He shook his head. I showed him the photo, and his face went pale. "That looks like Grandpa's great-uncle," he said. "But that guy died in the 1800s. There shouldn't be any pictures of him, let alone a painting like that." The rest of the family brushed it off. Old house, old junk, right? But that night, things got worse. Around 3 a.m., someone screamed. We all rushed out of our rooms. It was my cousin Jenna. She was in the upstairs hallway, pointing at the attic stairs. Said she saw someone up there. A man, dressed like he was from another century. We searched the attic, empty, but the portrait had changed. The man's eyes were now looking to the left instead of forward. We argued about it. Maybe we were remembering it wrong. Maybe the painting always looked like that. But by the next night, more of us saw him. In the mirrors, at the end of the hallway, standing at the base of the stairs. Every time he'd disappear when approached. The portrait changed again. This time, he was standing closer to the foreground, like he was stepping out of the painting. On the fourth day, my Aunt Carla vanished. We found her room empty. Bed untouched, window closed, no one had heard her leave. We searched the woods, called the police. They came out, asked questions, found nothing. Then Noah went missing. His phone was found on the attic steps. The portrait had changed again. Now 2 figures were in the painting, the man and what looked like Carla. Her face pale, her eyes empty. That night, I locked myself in my room. Didn't sleep, just watched the door. By morning, half the guests were gone. Disappeared without a trace. And the portrait? Now it had 6 figures. I packed my bags and left. Drove 10 hours straight to get home. I never went back. A few months later, I heard the estate burned down. Cause unknown. No survivors. The report said only 4 people were ever accounted for after the reunion. I was one of them. I still have the photo I took of the portrait. It has 8 people in it now, and one of them looks just like me.